You know that line from Dead Poet Society? The one about medicine, law, business, engineering being noble pursuits.
Mm-hmm.
But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for.
Oh, absolutely.
The source material you sent in has me thinking about that.
Yeah.
I think we're about to take a deep dive into those very things that make life,
Really worth living.
truly worth living. Yeah,
It seems to touch on some pretty fundamental
exactly.
aspects of the human experience.
Yeah, it all revolves around this big concept, love.
Mm-hmm.
And the author isn't just talking about romantic love.
Right.
They're exploring what it really means to understand ourselves and others,
Yeah.
how that connects to a deeper and more lasting sense of happiness.
That's what struck me as well. It was a very personal,
Yeah.
almost spiritual perspective.
Okay, so let's dive right in.
Okay.
The author starts by saying that love is individualistic.
Right.
It originates within each person's mind.
Yeah, and I think that's such a powerful idea because it challenges this notion that love is something we find outside of ourselves
Right?
and something that's solely dependent on another person.
Like we're looking for our other half to complete us.
Right, exactly.
This author is kind of flipping that script,
Yeah.
saying, hey, your experience of love is actually generated from within,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of scary and liberating at the same time.
It definitely puts a lot of responsibility on the individual.
Right.
If those feelings aren't dependent on someone else,
Yeah.
then we have more control over how we experience
Mhm.
and express love.
How do we tap into that inner wellspring of love?
Well, they point to these moments of self-realization
Okay.
when you feel deeply connected to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when you're crying, or when you see a loved one after a long time,
Yeah.
or even when you're experiencing grief.
I can relate to that. Sometimes the most profound insights
Yeah.
come to me when I'm just sitting on the bathroom floor crying.
Really?
It's like all the walls come down and I can finally see myself clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These moments that might seem small
Right.
or even insignificant, they're actually tapping into something much deeper.
Like glimpsing into your own soul.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Psychologists have a term for this, flow states.
Okay.
It's those moments where you're completely absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
In the present moment, you lose track of time
Okay.
and you feel a sense of deep connection and purpose.
So what I'm hearing is these seemingly ordinary moments of self-realization,
Yeah.
they're actually opportunities
Mm.
to access this deeper level of awareness
Right.
of ourselves and the world around us.
And that leads right into their next point, which is about understanding what they call our programming.
Ooh, this is where it got interesting for me. Tell me more about this.
They argue that our past experiences, especially those early childhood experiences,
Okay.
create these programs in our minds
Interesting.
that shape how we react to situations and what we perceive as our nature.
Yeah. So it's like our brains are wired
Yeah.
with these default settings based on what we've been exposed to.
It's a good analogy.
Good.
Think of it like a computer program. If you input certain experiences,
Right.
it's going to output specific reactions.
Right.
Someone who grew up in a chaotic or unpredictable environment
Yeah.
might develop a program that triggers anxiety or need for control in certain situations.
Makes sense.
And what I find fascinating is that the author claims
Yeah.
that no two programs are identical.
Wow.
We're each walking around with this unique set of code
That's crazy.
running in the background, shaping how we see the world
Right.
and interact with others.
So understanding love then
Yes.
isn't just about understanding the other person's surface level traits.
Exactly.
It's about going deeper and trying to understand their unique programming.
It's about recognizing that the way they express love, the way they react to conflict,
Yeah.
even the things that trigger them,
Right.
are rooted in these deeply ingrained patterns
Okay.
of thought and behavior.
This is a huge shift in perspective.
It is.
But how do we even begin to unravel those complex programs?
Well, that's where they introduce the concept of the matrix.
Right.
It's their way of describing all the external factors and societal pressures that can distract us from truly knowing ourselves.
Okay, so you're saying that even when we're trying to do the work,
Yeah.
there are these external forces pulling us away.
Exactly. Think about all the messages we get every day
Mm-hmm.
about how we should look, act, what we should achieve.
Right.
This constant barrage of expectations
Yeah.
that can drown out our own inner voice.
It's like we're living in this pre-programmed reality.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so much effort to break free
Right.
and see things from a fresh perspective.
And the author argues that until we start questioning those external influences
Right.
and asking ourselves, What do I truly want? What are my values?
Mhm.
We're never going to get to the heart of who we are, let alone understand the people we love.
So it's not just about understanding our own programming,
Yeah.
but also recognizing how that programming
Right.
interacts with this matrix of external influence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about becoming aware of how those forces shape our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
beliefs, actions,
Okay.
and then making conscious choices
Right.
about
Yeah.
what we want to keep and what we want to discard.
And I'm guessing this awareness is crucial for understanding love, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because their central argument is that love, at its core,
Yeah.
is about understanding the other person,
Okay.
not just their surface level traits,
Right.
but their deepest fears,
Mhm.
their scary parts,
Yeah.
and those unique unknown programs that make them who they are.
So not just accepting the good parts,
Exactly.
but having the courage to see and understand their shadow side.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And that's where things can get really challenging.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about those darker aspects of human nature.
This is where that example about abusive relationships really hit me hard.
Mm-hmm.
They suggested that one reason these relationships persist
Yeah.
is because one partner deeply understands the other's programming,
Wow.
including the programming that drives the abusive behavior.
That's a very difficult idea to grapple with.
It is.
But I think it highlights the profound power
Yeah.
and potential danger
Right.
of deep understanding in any relationship.
Yeah, it's like they're saying that even the most destructive patterns
Yeah.
often stem from these deeper, unaddressed wounds or experiences.
Right.
It's a lot to unpack.
It certainly is.
And it's important to emphasize
Yes.
that this understanding in no way condones abuse.
Absolutely not.
Right.
It's a horrific
Eternal cruel day.
and harmful dynamic.
Yeah.
But I think they're trying to shed light on the complexities
Okay.
of human behavior and how our past experiences can shape our present actions.
Okay, that's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
And it leads to their next point about the connection between understanding others
Right.
and understanding ourselves.
They argue that we can only truly comprehend in others
Mhm.
what we've faced within ourselves.
So if we're judging someone for their jealousy,
Yeah,
maybe it's time to examine our own jealous tendencies first.
exactly.
Oh, wow.
Because often the things that bother us most in others are reflections of aspects of ourselves that we haven't fully acknowledged or integrated.
You spot it, you got it.
Exactly.
And I'm starting to see how this self-awareness
Yeah,
can lead to a deeper sense of compassion for ourselves and for others.
that's the key.
Okay.
Because compassion is a fundamental element of love.
Mhm.
It's about seeing beyond the surface
Yeah.
and recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles,
Right.
carrying their own wounds,
Mhm.
struggling to make sense of this crazy thing called life.
So we're all in this together,
Right.
even when our programming clashes
Exactly.
or our matrix parameters don't align.
Yeah.
Right.
That brings us to their central argument about staying in love.
Okay.
They believe it's an ongoing process of discovery
Right.
where both partners keep evolving and uncovering new depths within themselves.
So it's not about finding the perfect person
Right.
or reaching some magical endpoint.
It's about embracing that journey of discovery,
Yeah.
both individually and together.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Because the author starts to connect this idea of love and self-discovery
Okay.
to something even bigger,
Uh-huh.
the realms of art and spirituality.
Okay.
We were just talking about deep emotional connection.
Yeah.
Now we're stepping into art galleries and meditation retreats.
Right.
How does that all tie together?
Well, they specifically mentioned Van Gogh,
Okay.
who famously said, "I feel there is nothing more truly artistic than to love people." And when you think about Van Gogh's paintings,
Yeah.
with their vibrant colors and emotional depth, it's like he was trying to capture the essence of human experience on canvas.
So are you saying that understanding people,
Yeah.
their motivations, their fears,
Yeah.
their joys,
Yes.
is just as complex and beautiful as creating a masterpiece?
It requires observation, empathy,
Yeah.
and a willingness to delve into the unknown.
Wow.
And just like art, it's a process that can challenge and transform us.
But it's not just about the beauty of it.
Right.
The author also ties love to spirituality,
Yes.
mentioning Buddha and Jesus.
Right. And both of those figures emphasized compassion and understanding as core principles.
Yeah.
Buddha taught that love and suffering are intertwined,
Okay.
and that true enlightenment comes from transcending attachments
Right.
and embracing universal love.
And Jesus even while being crucified,
Yes.
showed compassion for his tormentors,
Right.
saying, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do."
These are profound examples of understanding taken to the highest level. And while the author acknowledges that we may never reach that level of enlightenment,
Right.
they suggest that the pursuit of understanding ourselves and others is a spiritual journey in itself.
It's like love is the path and understanding is the destination.
Exactly.
But it requires us to confront our own shadow side, right? Those scary parts that we might prefer to keep hidden.
Right.
Who wants to spend their Saturday night digging around in their emotional baggage?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not exactly a fun activity.
No.
But the author makes this point.
Yeah.
If we can't understand those scary parts within ourselves,
Yeah.
how can we possibly understand them in others?
It's like trying to navigate a maze in the dark.
Yeah.
You need a light to illuminate the path.
Right.
And that light comes from self-awareness.
And here's what really got me thinking.
Yeah.
Staying in love requires both partners
Yeah.
to continuously embark on this journey of self-discovery.
Right.
If one person becomes stagnant while the other continues to evolve, the relationship can start to feel unbalanced.
It's like they're reading different books.
Right.
Speaking different languages.
Yeah.
That shared understanding starts to fade.
Right. And that's when things can get tricky.
Yes.
We might start seeking excitement elsewhere
Yeah.
through hobbies, friendships,
Right.
even other romantic relationships.
Yeah. And the author believes that if both partners stay committed to exploring their own depths
Right.
and understanding each other's evolving programs, the love can last a lifetime.
It's like they're constantly writing new chapters in their shared story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're both becoming more fully realized individuals in the process,
Yeah.
which ultimately benefits not just the relationship,
Yeah.
but their own personal growth as well.
So we're talking about a very active form of love here.
We are.
It's not about finding the right person and then just coasting.
Right.
It's about consciously choosing to understand,
Exactly.
to grow,
Yeah.
to stay curious about ourselves and our partners.
And the author goes on to say that this pursuit of understanding, this act of loving people deeply, is a form of art.
Okay.
It's the highest form of art because it requires us to engage with the full spectrum of human experience.
Wow. So we're all artists.
Yes.
And our relationships are the canvases.
Exactly.
Every interaction, every conversation, a brushstroke.
And the more we understand the colors,
Right.
the textures, the nuances
Yeah.
of both ourselves and the people we love,
Yeah.
the richer and more meaningful that masterpiece becomes.
This is all incredibly thought-provoking. But before we get too lost in the metaphors,
Yeah.
let's bring it back to you, dear listener.
Okay.
The author never explicitly defined love,
It's true.
probably because it's such a vast and complex emotion.
Right.
So I'm curious, what's your definition of love?
It's a question that's been pondered by philosophers and poets for centuries.
And I think what's so fascinating is that each individual,
Yeah.
each relationship seems to offer a unique answer. What struck me about this author's perspective
Yeah.
is they don't try to define love.
Right.
They give us this framework for understanding how love works,
I agree.
how it deepens, and how it endures.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
And I think that framework boils down to understanding ourselves, understanding others,
Like-
and recognizing that both are constantly evolving.
So it's not about finding that perfect match,
Yeah.
reaching some magical endpoint.
It's about embracing the journey of discovery,
Yeah,
both individually and together.
exactly. Being willing to dive into those deep waters,
Mm-hmm.
exploring the unknown territories within ourselves and our partners,
Yeah,
trusting that the process itself will reveal something meaningful
absolutely.
and maybe even a little terrifying at times.
Yeah.
Like facing those scary parts of ourselves
Yeah.
can't always be easy.
It takes courage to look inward, to acknowledge those parts of ourselves that we might not like or that we've been trying to hide.
But the author suggests
Yeah.
it's in those shadowy corners, those less than perfect aspects,
Right.
that we often discover our greatest potential for growth and transformation.
That reminds me of something the author said about staying in love.
Yeah.
It requires both partners to
Right.
stay curious about each other's evolving programs.
Okay.
If one person is stagnant
Right.
while the other continues to grow,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of imbalance.
It's like they're on different trajectories, heading in different directions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I imagine that can lead to a lot of frustration and resentment.
Totally.
The author even uses the analogy of getting bored.
Oh, interesting.
When we feel like we've fully understood someone,
Right.
when there's no longer a sense of mystery or discovery,
Yeah.
that's when things can start to feel stale.
We've all experienced that.
We have.
That feeling of boredom
Yes.
in a relationship, a job, even a hobby.
Right.
It's like the spark just fades away.
Yeah. And the author suggests
Yeah.
one way to keep that spark alive
Mm-hmm.
is to approach our relationships with a beginner's mind,
Interesting.
to always be open to learning new things about our partner,
Right.
recognizing that we never truly arrive
Yeah.
at a point of complete understanding.
We're always peeling back new layers.
Yes.
Discovering hidden depths.
Mm-hmm.
Uncovering new facets of each other's personalities.
Exactly. It requires us to stay engaged,
Oh,
but to
yeah.
stay curious
Mm-hmm.
and to resist that urge to settle into complacency.
Right. Easier said than done, though.
It is.
Life gets busy.
It does.
Responsibilities pile up.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall back into those familial patterns.
It's true.
Yeah.
But I think they're trying to emphasize that love requires effort.
Right.
It's not a passive state of being.
Right.
It's an active choice that we make
Yeah.
each and every day to
Right.
show up for ourselves
Yeah.
and the people we love.
And that effort, that willingness to keep growing
Yes.
is ultimately what allows love to deepen and endure.
Exactly. And I love how they tie it back to the idea of love as art. They argue that it's the highest form of art
Okay.
because it requires us to engage with the full spectrum of human experience,
Right.
both the light and the shadow.
Seeing the beauty in the imperfections,
Yes,
the potential for growth in the challenges,
exactly.
the transformative power of accepting ourselves and our partners for who we are.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful message to leave with our listeners.
It is, but before we wrap up, I want to pose one final question.
Okay.
The author never explicitly defined love,
Right.
but they gave us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So how has your view of love changed after this deep dive?
Really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
We threw that word love around so casually.
We do.
But when you actually stop and think about it,
Mm-hmm.
what it means,
Yeah.
it can be a bit mind-boggling.
It is a vast and multifaceted concept.
That's for sure. This deep dive has highlighted for me
Yeah.
that love isn't just a feeling,
Right.
it's an action.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way we choose to show up
Yeah.
in our relationships
Right.
every single day,
Mm.
even when it's difficult.
I heard a quote recently,
Okay.
something along the lines of, love is a verb.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's not just a noun.
Right.
It's something we actively do, something we practice,
Right.
cultivate over time.
It aligns with the author's emphasis on the ongoing nature of love.
It does.
It's not about reaching some sort of finish line.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey,
Yeah.
the ups, the downs,
Wow.
the continuous process of understanding and growth.
And that growth, as
Yeah.
we've been discussing,
Mhm.
happens on an individual level,
Right.
but also within the relationship.
Right. It's this beautiful dance
Yeah.
between two individuals who are committed to their own evolution
Right.
and to supporting each other's growth.
Which, as we've learned, can be messy and challenging.
Absolutely.
There will be moments of friction,
Mm-hmm.
times when our programming clashes,
Right.
and situations that just trigger those deeply ingrained
Yeah.
patterns of thought and behavior.
It's in those moments
Yeah.
that I think we have the greatest opportunity to
Oh.
practice what the author calls the art of love.
I like that. The art of love.
It's about leaning into the discomfort,
Right.
being willing to see things from a different perspective,
Mhm.
and finding ways to communicate
Yeah.
with compassion and understanding.
Even when we disagree
Right,
or
if you-
feel frustrated, we're still on the same team.
Yes, and that shared commitment,
Yeah.
that willingness to keep showing up,
Right.
that's ultimately what allows love to flourish.
This has been such a rich conversation.
It has.
We started with this movie quote
Yeah.
about the things that make life worth living.
Right.
And we ended up exploring the
Mm-hmm.
depths of human connection and the complexities of love.
What I think is so powerful about this
Yeah.
is that it gives us a new lens
It does.
through which to view our own relationships,
Mhm.
both romantic and platonic.
It's reminded us that understanding,
Yeah,
both of ourselves and others,
right.
it's an ongoing process,
Absolutely.
a journey without a destination,
Mm-hmm.
but one that's filled with
Yes.
incredible opportunities for growth, transformation, and connection.
As we wrap up this episode,
Yes.
I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
Remember that the author emphasized
He did.
understanding ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
It's the highest form of art.
Okay.
So as you go about your day,
Yeah,
I encourage you to embrace your role as a love artist.
I love that.
Explore your own depths.
Right.
Be curious about the people you love.
Mm-hmm.
Never stop seeking a deeper understanding.
Because in that pursuit,
Yes,
I think we find the true meaning of what it means to be alive.
absolutely.
This deep dive was just the beginning.